5 players Ken Holland and the Edmonton Oilers could trade for in the coming months. Let's go. Now, if you look at the current Edmonton Oilers roster, the average fan will tell you that there are 2 main areas GM Ken Holland could definitely improve on, especially if this team has any aspiration to build on last year and be a 3 or even 4 round playoff team. Ask any knowledgeable Edmonton Oilers fan and they'll tell you that priority number 1 is the defense. Number 2 is definitely debatable, but many would tell you that they should improve their depth on offense, which includes complementary scoring, especially in the bottom 6 and the wingers on the top 9. Now, let's start with the offense. Obviously, with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Zach Hyman playing the way they are, then scoring shouldn't be this team's biggest problem on most nights, right? Well, I'm not so sure about that, because besides those 4 players and maybe Evander Kane, I think it's fair to say that there's a huge drop-off in production in terms of scoring if you look at the other forwards. And to keep things real, most elite teams don't expect the same 3 to 4 guys to score every single night. Especially in the NHL, even elite players will have some off nights, where other forwards will need to step up and chip in to help their team win close games. And to be quite frank, it doesn't look like the Oilers have too much of that right now. Now, I'll give you a really quick example. If we take a look at the Colorado Avalanche, the Stanley Cup champs last year, yes, McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, and Kadri carried the team offensively, but we can't forget that they also had a very good number of support players in Burakovsky, Compher, Newhook, Toews, Nichushkin, Kubel, who all chipped in a very healthy amount of goals. On top of that, they also had Artturi Lehkonen, who really came through for the team in the playoffs with 8 goals in 20 playoff games. In the end, one could argue that this was a huge reason why the Avs were finally able to get over the hump and get their first championship in the McKinnon, Landeskog, and Makar era. And from what we have seen this season, guys like McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent-Hopkins can't really take a night off. It's literally night and day, because on nights when those guys aren't scoring, it seems to me that it turns out into an automatic L more often than not. And being on the job for so long, I honestly think that Uncle Ken realized this by now, and is definitely trying to bring in more help by the deadline. Yes, having Evander Kane back will help for sure. Besides that, the current wingers on the Oilers who are all getting top 9 minutes quite simply haven't been scoring enough, and that list includes players like Puljujarvi, Yamamoto, Foegele, and so on. Subscribe! So one trade target that could make sense for Ken Holland and can give Edmonton's top 9 scoring an immediate upgrade might be someone like Max Domi of the Chicago Blackhawks. Domi is obviously not the biggest guy, but he does bring a good mixture of skill, speed, grit, and most importantly, he has shown the ability to produce in the NHL. He does have a career high of 28 goals and 72 points, and on average, he has consistently been able to give you a good 35 to 40 points in a top 6 to top 9 role for much of his career. Essentially something Oilers fans are dying to see Puljujarvi, Foegele, and Yamamoto become someday. And as a bonus, Domi has also shown the ability to play alongside elite skilled players like Patrick Kane in Chicago. Surprisingly, Domi is putting up some very decent offensive numbers despite playing on a very bad Chicago Blackhawks team this season. So if you put him in an even better situation in Edmonton, where he gets to play with other high-end talents like Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, then who knows, maybe Oilers fans might be able to see the best offensive version of Max Domi. As a bonus, Domi has the ability to play center, which could give Edmonton even more flexibility in their lineup, especially if coach Jay Woodcroft decides to reunite McDavid and Draisaitl on some nights or use Nugent-Hopkins as a top 6 winger. At the same time, adding some insurance at center ice doesn't help, especially in the bottom 6, as many would consider Domi an upgrade over someone like Devin Shore and Derek Ryan right now. Domi is currently on an expiring contract at a $3 million cap hit, and yes, the Oilers are very tight against the salary cap, but in the grand scheme of things, if the Oilers really wanted to, it wouldn't be impossible to trade for him before the trade deadline. Do you think Max Domi is a worthwhile target for Ken Holland? And will he be a good fit in Edmonton for the rest of this season? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on to another trade target Ken Holland and the Edmonton Oilers might be interested in is Jonathan Toews of the Chicago Blackhawks. Now personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this move, But if you have been following Oiler rumors over the past several months, then Toews' name seemed to have popped up every now and then. And in that, I can sort of see why a team like Edmonton might be interested. For one, production-wise, he is having somewhat of a bounce-back season on the ice. And number two, I think Toews could give the Oilers' bottom six some nice added depth and also bring along some intangibles into the locker room. Toews has pretty much won it all at every level, so kinda like Duncan Keith last year, I feel like his veteran presence and everyday impact in the locker room, especially on the younger players, might be something the Oilers are missing right now, and it might come in handy if they go deep in the playoffs. You probably can't expect Toews to be a top 2 center in Edmonton, and that's fine because he doesn't have to at this point in his career. Overall, I feel like he could still be a very solid third line center playing behind the other centers in Edmonton. The biggest hurdle in acquiring Jonathan Toews is likely his cap hit, which is at a 10.5 AAV. And if the Oilers really wanted him, then I think Ken Holland will likely have to get a third team involved and likely have to part ways with some assets and add some sweeteners into the deal. With that in mind, I think this is one of those 50-50 deals that some Oiler fans might like, meanwhile others might be totally against. How about you? Do you think bringing in Jonathan Toews as a bottom 6 center is something for Ken Holland to consider? Or would you go after someone else? Let me know in the comments below. Next, let's take a look at the most important part of this video and possibly the most important part for the Edmonton Oilers. It's the defense. In terms of potential targets, if you have been following Edmonton Oilers rumors, then it's no secret that the same few names seem to pop up every now and then. And it does kind of make sense because in this year's market, there's only really a limited handful of defensemen available at the trade deadline. The first player is Vladislav Gavrikov of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, according to the rumors, Edmonton has been interested in him for a minute, and overall many would agree that Gavrikov is one of the better targets for the Oilers to go after this year. Essentially, he's someone that could give Edmonton's D-core an instant upgrade, especially on the left side, as Gavrikov is a reliable two-way D-man with size, speed, and some skill. So pretty much a well-rounded defenseman that can contribute on both ends of the ice. He is a pretty proven NHL defender who can be relied upon as a regular top 4 guy on most teams, and likely a very high tier third pairing defenseman on stronger defensive teams. With someone like Gavrikov in the picture, the Oilers' left hand side definitely improves. And I feel like Woodcroft can alleviate some of the pressure off Nurse and allocate some of his heavy top 4 minutes to Gavrikov. Meanwhile, someone like Brett Kulak could be pushed down into the bottom pairing role, perhaps a role where he is much more suited for. On top of that, this would give the Oilers the option to give a younger player like Philip Broberg even more time this season, as maybe the number 7 guy who can come in and out of the lineup. What are your thoughts on Vladislav Gavrikov? Should he be a key target for Holland and friends heading into the trade deadline? Joel Edmondson of the Montreal Canadiens is another name that keeps getting linked to the Oilers in the rumors. He currently plays on a very bad Canadiens team, likely looking to sell at the deadline. And at 29 years old, he's probably one of the players they will try to offload for some assets. Overall, Edmondson is a big physical left-hand D who's capable of giving you a reliable 18 to 20 minutes a night, especially in a bottom pairing role. And I feel like he could come in and help stabilize a more offensive D partner like Evan Bouchard or Tyson Barrie on the right side. Perhaps his style of play is something the Oilers certainly don't mind having more of, as he's not afraid to drop the gloves or be physically engaged game in game out, which could come in handy especially during a chippy game or a tough hard-nosed playoff series. As a bonus, Edmondson is a Stanley Cup winner and was also part of the Canadiens' epic run a few years back. So adding another proven playoff performer to the lineup who has been through it all should only help. Kind of like Duncan Keith for the Oilers last year, maybe a little bit younger version. On top of that, Edmondson is not a true rental, as he has one more season left on his deal. He comes at a somewhat reasonable cap hit of only 3.5 next year, so if Holland feels like he is the type of player he wants, it might be worthwhile to pay a little more just to get him for 2 playoff runs, as he can't walk away in the summer for nothing. And next, besides Bo Horvat of the Vancouver Canucks, Jakob Chychrun is perhaps the most talked about name on the trade market. He is also the highest ranked defenseman on most NHL trade bait lists. From afar, it seems like it's only a matter of time before the Arizona Coyotes decide to finally trade him. And out of everyone on this list, he might be the one player who could come in and have the biggest impact on the Oilers and help them the most right away. It appears that the Oilers might have tried to get Chychrun as early as last year and even over the off season. But it sounded like the Coyotes' asking price was just simply too high and Holland wasn't willing to pay the price at that time. However, things might have changed over the past few months, in that Holland might realize that his defense could definitely use a little bit of an upgrade. And on the other hand, the Coyotes might be a little bit more lenient this year, especially if they feel like they have a legit shot to land Connor Bedard, and trading Chychrun would definitely give them a better chance to lose more games. Overall, on Edmonton's roster, Chychrun could definitely come in and instantly be a heavy minute first or second pairing guy on the left hand side. At a reasonable 4.6 cap hit for 2 more seasons, it might be hard to find a similar defenseman in the open market. Injuries might be a little bit of a concern, but someone like Chychrun is almost impossible to get right now without making a trade in the NHL. Obviously, if you read around, there are many non-Chychrun Oiler fans out there, but I think one could argue that if he was an Oiler right now, he would definitely be one of the Oilers' top 2 or top 3 defensemen. And adding him would probably help the Oilers' decor move one step forward to the next level. So if you were Ken Holland, would you pay up for Jakob Chychrun of the Arizona Coyotes? Or would you save your assets for someone else? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to watch more of my crappy videos, then make sure you click the links on the side right here. Subscribe.